Hello everybody, I'm Elwirfy and this is going to be hopefully a quicker video than I normally do, but I just thought that it was important that I talk about the actual numbers behind what's going on so that way nobody's confused. So based on some math that I've seen in other people's videos, which I'll admit I don't know where they are off the top of my head, but I believe it was calculated that based on the budget for the game that this would need to sell at least 10 million units in order to break even for Ubisoft based on their stock prices. Now, in another video, I did allude to the fact that Tencent would be able to buy out um, Ubisoft should they go under. And I think that still holds true. So, as far as I know, I'm not worried about the company actually going under. It might just go under new management, of course. But what's important about these numbers, at least for Steam, and I'll admit I don't know what the numbers are for Xbox or for PlayStation, but I do know numbers wise, it's not 10 million. Okay. And this is like within not that much days. I mean, as I'm recording this right now, it is currently March 22nd, and I understand that this is technically 4 hours old, but I mean, it's not looking great. We can see a downward trend right now because at the all-time peak it was at 60,000, but again, it's going back down. If your all-time peak is only at 60,000 and you needed to sell 10 million, like we don't even have a million people playing. And I understand that this is peak, so this is a cycling thing. But if you look down at the Twitch stats, you can see that the all-time peak ever was only 300,000. So, and based on the owner's estimations, they're giving 324,000 and they're giving different numbers. So we don't have a monthly breakdown yet, but it's important to understand, and I'm not too sure what the followers surveys, but even then, it's not great. My point is, it's not 10 million. We're still very below everything. And we did get just recently under 80% for this, so uh, you can see that the positive to negative review ratio, at the very least, has been pretty good for the game, which is good. I don't think the game is like bad. Like I said in my previous video, I think it's just average based on the gameplay footage I've seen. It's fine, but it's nothing crazy. But what the point is that this isn't the kind of numbers you want to see if you were trying to say break into the market and revive your company, because Ubisoft, I believe, has been having a lot of struggles recently with getting their games to take off. I know that like their games, for example, haven't been as successful as they would like, especially because a lot of their big titles, are not. I don't believe they're as profitable anymore because most veterans of games, like you take Rainbow Six Siege for example, is like a great example of how most of the people who are left that still play the game are really good at the game, and but they're the ones who might invest in skins. But the average player, I hope at least, is not what's contributing to those sales numbers. Because if with all the money they sank into the game, if Ubisoft sold under their target amount, the one question that comes up might be, oh, well, are the microtransactions in their games making up for that loss? Now, arguably, the microtransactions within Assassin's Creed Shadows might also add to that, but I would hope that people aren't wasting their time paying for microtransactions within a single player game. This game, unfortunately, like many other AAA games, and I've talked about this before, is designed in such a way that it makes you discouraged from playing through the game properly because it wants you to buy max gear right away. And the game is designed to be so slow and grindy that purchasing the max stuff right away is a very good incentive. And if you have unlimited disposal of money, go ahead. You buy what you want to buy, but like I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I think that you're defeating the point of the game if you can buy the best gear right off the bat. That just seems very disappointing. And they might frame it as, oh, this is cosmetic, but it's really pay to win. And I haven't had to use those words in a long time because pay to win is bad. But in a single player game where it's only you, pay to win tends to get overlooked, which is very disappointing. And we can see in this instance that Ubisoft, because of these numbers, is relying on pay to win as their main strategy for pulling themselves out of a financial hole that they put themselves in because they were disrespectful to Japan and to Japanese people. It's all cycling back, all coming back to the fact that Yasuke is a fictional character who was never in history, yet they claim to have done research. Ubisoft claimed to have done their research and put him in for historical purposes to fulfill likely a DEI requirement as set by shareholders or whatever policies they look up. Again, I'm not an expert in the financial side of business, but it's important to understand the fact that when you have numbers like this, I mean, 60,000, that's not okay. Even if you look at the trends, it dips, admittedly, but it is technically growing right now. We do see an upward trend, and I suspect that it will probably get more. It's just the problem is that these numbers don't look great. Even for Twitch stats, it's not great. Because I know this is based on Steam charts, and I know you might say, oh, this isn't right, and there's this many people in game right now. That's fine. But if you look at all these companies that it took to make too, you have Ubisoft from all different parts of the world that were involved. It's really concerning, you know, like how many people you involved to make this game, and then they aren't actually making profit on that. So look at all these people who are probably not getting paid. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these remote areas, like Ubisoft Sofia, I don't even know where that is, to be honest. I've never heard of Sofia. Is that a country? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Or Montpellier. Again, that doesn't sound like a country. So maybe these are cities and not countries. I don't know. But it's really concerning that we're at a point now where Ubisoft is essentially at our mercy. But I can't endorse you going out and supporting Ubisoft when they make games that are fundamentally designed to take your money. I despise microtransactions to the core, and the fact that we're at a point where the game is, in fact, you know, it's got microtransactions in it in a single player game. There's no reason, there's no excuse really, to have microtransactions in a single player game, especially if you're charging $70 for it, which they are, because $70 is a lot for a video game. And I mean, think about all these people who are paying this money for the single player experience, and then realistically, you're not going to play the game again once you beat it. Now, maybe I understand there's branching pathways, and some people are completionists, and they might do all the routes and such. And if you find value in that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm willing to bet that the majority of people will not be playing through this game more than once. We've already seen examples of how people are having trouble even finishing it the first time. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if someone wants to, get a refund on their game. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because it feels like people are trying to make excuses for a game just because it's an Assassin's Creed game. Assassin's Creed hasn't been good for a while. I mean, at this point, is the main plot, like the fact that you're in the Animus, like, does that really have much to do anymore with the point of these games? These games are experiments into different time periods, and the problem is that Ubisoft tried to frame this time period as historically accurate when it's not, and the fact that they did so against a culture who takes a lot of pride in what they make, because I mean, there's a lot of Japanese games where they very rigidly stick to traditional depictions of their culture, and when they don't stick to that, they're very clear about the fact that it's just a game, or they're clear that it's fiction, that it's not meant to be taken seriously. So when an outside force is putting their view of another culture into a game that's meant to represent the culture as if the people from that culture made the game, that creates the problem. That's where we see that tension and the fighting, unfortunately. I mean, that's the truth of it, right? What else could I say? So then when you look at these numbers here, we're looking at, and again, in not a couple days. I mean, the game hasn't been out for that long. It came out on March 20th, and it's only now, March 22nd. This is only with 2 days. I'm not saying that this is indicative of everything, but based on the trends, I'll admit it is slightly going up, and I expect more sales to come through. Ubisoft right now is claiming to have 2 million players. I don't know what that means, though, because there's people who buy the game passes and stuff who could be a player and not actually paying full $70 price. So that number of how much money they're making off of the game is also getting skewed, and I suspect that depending on how willing people are to hold onto their wallets, that the game will go on sale, and a lot of people are waiting to buy the game at a discount, which is fine. I think that's actually a good way to do it. I generally try not to endorse buying anything on release, unless there's an exception of a game that you feel really strongly connected towards. And I'm not saying there's not Assassin's Creed fans who think that the $70 is worth it. If you think that, that's okay. I mean, again, like I said before, it's your money. You should be an adult and do what you'd like with what you're purchasing. But just based on these numbers alone, I would say that if you're thinking about buying the game to support the publisher of Ubisoft, I think that's not a good reason to spend your money because I don't think the value you'll get out of the game is worth it solely to keep a company standing on its feet. If a company makes a bad game and is culturally insensitive and still decides to put microtransactions in the game in a single player game, that seems like a big recipe for disaster. And I would not want to touch this game at all. That's why you're not going to see me playing through the game because I have no interest in it. That's why the upcoming games that I have planned are going to be games that, one, I've already completed, but two, games that I feel really provide a sense of joy and value. Because I want to go back to the Let's Play days. I want to be able to play games and entertain people and have you guys enjoying that experience of getting to watch me play a game with you. And like, I'll comment down below. Like, if you have see parts in the game like where I made a mistake, like, or like you really liked, like we can talk about it, right? Build that sense of community. But I can't see myself building a community around Assassin's Creed Shadows. There's just no way. The game is too focused on creating a lackluster experience so that way you're compelled to buy in-game items to improve that experience. That means that if you need microtransactions in your game to improve the experience, then that means your initial experience isn't good and therefore it's a bad value proposition because I should be able, in my opinion, to have the same gaming experience as a poor person versus a rich person who can afford to buy all these stuff. That's why I don't have a problem with cosmetics microtransactions because it doesn't, in my opinion, expect the gameplay experience. But this game has pay-to-win elements where you can buy maxed out gear. So that means, truly, there's no arguing. Like, you will have a different experience playing the game if you pay for those microtransaction items versus someone who doesn't. So depending on how big your wallet is, you're going to have a completely different experience than someone who's just starting out in the game and doesn't get all the high level gear right away. That's why we discourage pay to win. That's exactly why it's a problem and why we got it out of gaming for a while. For a long time, we had just cosmetic microtransactions, which I still disagree with because I think those should be free, but that's a compromise I can tend to slide on if they only have cosmetic microtransactions. What I can't ever I have to draw the line on pay-to-win microtransactions. That's super disappointing. So when I see these numbers, and I know for a fact that these numbers aren't also indicative of how much people are paying in microtransactions, it makes it really hard to trust the data. So we need to wait for an official statement from Ubisoft, I think, to get a final estimation as to whether or not they're going under and if they need to sell to Tencent or not. I mean, I don't want them to go under. I like that they make games, and I want them to be successful. I think we should always want the people who make video games to be successful, but we should only want that if they're making quality games that are deserving of our respect and our understanding. So that's for me, that's where I draw the line, right? Is how valuable of a proposition is a game versus how much money I'm going to invest into it. Because $70, I mean, if you were making the national average minimum wage of $7.25, that means it takes 10 hours of labor to get this video game. And are you going to get 10 hours of fun out of this game? Based on what I'm seeing people do, because again, I don't want to buy the game, but based on what I've seen, it seems like people are having trouble finishing the game, and I don't think this is worth 10 hours of your hard-earned cash. Now, if you're making more money and you're rich or something, hey, you buy it, you do what you want to do. But for those of us who are poor like me, who don't have a lot of money, who have to be very careful about our spending decisions and want to make good choices as to where we invest both our time and our money, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows, for me, is still a pass, and I don't think you should be guilted into buying a game just to help a company that's going under, because let me tell you something, they don't care about you. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, especially as we're going through the days and months. I'm getting closer to the point where I'm going to be unable to make a lot of videos, and you'll be watching pre-recorded content. That'll be pretty cool. I hope you stick around for that process as I work to stay afloat while I work on my career and in college and stuff. But for now, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll definitely see you guys next time, and take care, everyone.